Ever wondered how electoral bonds might be shaping India's political landscape? Well, let's take a moment to explore this intriguing topic. Electoral bonds, in essence, are financial instruments used for funding political activities. They are a way for parties to raise money for their cause, their campaigns, and their operations. The introduction of electoral bonds in India in 2017 marked a significant shift in the country's political funding landscape. The government implemented these bonds with the aim of bringing about more transparency in political funding. Yet their impact has been a subject of intense debate. They have become a key player in the Indian political arena, playing a pivotal role in shaping the financial dynamics of political parties. They have redefined how politics is funded and have brought about new challenges and opportunities. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So let's dive into the intricate world of electoral bonds and their impact on Indian politics. Understanding electoral bonds requires grasping their mechanics. Let's take a deep dive into this fascinating process. Electoral bonds are a type of bearer instrument, akin to a promissory note. They are purchased by any Indian citizen or a body incorporated in India. The purchaser can then donate this bond to a political party of their choice. Now, where does the State Bank of India fit into this picture? Well, it plays a crucial role as the authorized bank to issue and encash these bonds. The process is relatively straightforward. The purchaser approaches the State Bank of India and buys these bonds in multiples of 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, or 1 crore rupees. They can then donate these bonds anonymously to any registered political party. Here's where it gets interesting. Anonymity is a fundamental aspect of electoral bonds. The purchaser's identity is kept confidential, known only to the bank. The political party receiving the donation does not have the information about who donated the bond. When a political party receives an electoral bond, it deposits it into a verified account. The State Bank of India then redeems the bond, and the face value of the bond is credited to the political party's account. And voila, the process is complete. But what happens if the bond is not encashed? Well, if the bond is not redeemed within 15 days, it becomes worthless, ensuring that the funds reach their intended recipient promptly. As you can see, the process of purchasing and redeeming electoral bonds involves several steps, each designed with specific intentions. The anonymity aspect, for instance, was introduced to protect donors from potential repercussions. But this is only one side of the coin. The other side brings us to some interesting debates and discussions. Now that we've understood the mechanics, the question arises, how do these bonds impact politics? Money fuels politics, and electoral bonds play a significant role in this process. Electoral bonds, introduced in India in the year 2017, have markedly changed the landscape of political funding. They were designed with the intent to formalize political donations and to curb the flow of black money into politics. Before their introduction, political funding was a murky affair, often riddled with illicit funds and anonymous donations. Electoral bonds sought to bring about a certain level of transparency and accountability into this process by channelizing donations through a banking system. These bonds have quickly become a preferred method for donors and political parties alike. Donors favor them because they offer a safe, legitimate, and anonymous way to support their preferred political outfit. For political parties, these bonds are attractive because they offer a steady and reliable stream of funding. They allow parties to plan their campaigns better and focus on their political agenda rather than constantly scrambling for funds. But it's not all rosy. While electoral bonds have certainly streamlined the process of political funding, they have also spurred a host of new challenges. The anonymity that these bonds provide to the donors has been a subject of much debate. Critics argue that this lack of transparency could potentially lead to a quid pro quo situation, where donors could wield undue influence over the parties they fund. Moreover, the fact that these bonds can only be purchased through the State Bank of India, a public sector bank, has raised eyebrows. This has led to concerns about the potential misuse of power by the ruling party, as they could potentially have access to information about who is funding whom. Electoral bonds, while streamlining political funding, have raised questions about transparency. As we delve deeper into this topic, we'll explore the ongoing debate about these bonds, their impact on democracy, and the potential ramifications for accountability and electoral integrity. Stay tuned. Are electoral bonds a boon or bane for transparency in political funding? This question has sparked a spirited debate, with arguments on both sides of the aisle. On one hand, proponents of electoral bonds view them as a step forward in cleansing political funding. They argue that these instruments, by being bank-based, introduce a formal and traceable system that replaces the largely cash-based, opaque system of political donations. By making the process accountable to banking institutions, it's believed that electoral bonds can reduce under-the-table transactions and foster transparency. However, the critics of electoral bonds have a different perspective. They express concerns that these instruments, while appearing transparent, may actually be eroding accountability. The anonymity provision in the electoral bond scheme, which shields the donor's identity, is a major point of contention. Critics argue that this anonymity clause could potentially pave the way for quid pro quo transactions, where political favors can be traded for financial contributions. Moreover, the argument is made that this anonymity undermines the public's right to know who is funding their politicians. A transparent democracy, they argue, is one where the electorate is fully aware of the financial influences on their representatives. Without this knowledge, it becomes challenging to hold politicians accountable for their actions. Furthermore, critics express worry about the potential for foreign interference. With no way to ascertain the identity of donors, there's a risk that foreign entities could influence Indian politics through these bonds, thereby threatening the country's sovereignty and democratic integrity. The debate surrounding electoral bonds is complex and multifaceted, with valid points raised on both sides. It's a debate that goes beyond the mechanics of political funding and delves into the deeper principles of transparency, accountability, and democratic integrity. The debate on transparency leads us to ponder the influence of these bonds on the democratic process. As we continue to explore the role of electoral bonds in Indian politics, it's imperative to keep these principles in mind. How might electoral bonds be influencing India's democratic process? This question is at the heart of the ongoing debate. To understand the potential impact, we need to consider a few key aspects. Firstly, let's examine the issue of unequal access to funds. Electoral bonds, by their very nature, tend to favor the incumbent political parties. These parties are often better positioned to attract more substantial donations, given their visibility and influence. This could potentially create an uneven playing field, where smaller, less established parties struggle to compete financially. Moreover, the anonymity provision of the electoral bond scheme raises concerns about potential misuse. The identities of donors are kept secret, which means we can't trace where the funds are coming from. This lack of transparency could potentially pave the way for quid pro quo arrangements or even money laundering. Could this be undermining the very essence of democracy, which is built on principles of transparency and accountability? Many critics of the scheme believe so. However, it's not all doom and gloom. Some argue that electoral bonds have the potential to streamline political funding, making it more organized and less reliant on unaccounted cash. This could, in turn, lead to cleaner politics, but the question remains, do the benefits outweigh the potential risks? The impact of electoral bonds on India's democracy is not a black and white issue. It's a complex tapestry of pros and cons, potential benefits, and possible pitfalls. It's a debate about the balance between anonymity and transparency, between organized funding and financial fairness, between the desire for cleaner politics and the risk of covert influence. The influence of electoral bonds on Indian democracy is a complex and multifaceted issue. As we continue to debate and discuss, it's crucial that we remain vigilant, informed, and engaged. Because at the end of the day, democracy thrives on the active participation of its citizens. The future of political funding in India and its impact on our democracy is in our hands. In the realm of politics, nothing is simple, and electoral bonds are no exception. We've navigated a sea of complexities today, diving deep into the mechanics of these unique financial instruments. We've discovered how they're used as a conduit for political funding, altering the landscape of campaign financing in India. We've also stirred the pot of debate surrounding transparency and accountability. While some see electoral bonds as a step towards cleaner political funding, others raise concerns about potential misuse and lack of transparency. This controversy further intensifies as we consider the potential impact on democracy, raising questions about electoral integrity and the influence of money in politics. As we wrap up, it's clear that India's electoral bonds are a multifaceted issue, weaving a complex tapestry of political funding, accountability, and democracy. As we continue to explore the role of money in politics, the electoral bonds remain a contentious yet fascinating subject.